Continuing from the previous episode 1270. 3 adults, this way please. The maid took Xiao Yan and walked towards the depths of the city lord's mansion. It was relatively quiet and hardly disturbed. It was a place to receive distinguished guests. Have you finished your registration? The 3 Xiao Yan, who had just started walking, immediately bumped into Duan Yu. Thank you Duan Yu brother for leading the way just now. Seeing this, Xiao Yan opened his mouth slightly. Du Yu was about the same age as him, but his strength was stronger than himself, and his status was also aloof. When Du Yu saw this, he couldn't help laughing, and then he brought them to greet Mo Yu, and immediately settled down between Xiao Yan and the 3, but Xiao Yan and the others didn't know that they were able to live in the city lord's mansion. A symbol of identity and strength, so that many people are quite depressed. Because of the arrival of the ratio of Dongzhou, many places in Licheng were specially set aside for the contestants to live in. As for directly living in the city lord's mansion, this is the first time I have seen it, but with the instructions of the elders, others did not dare to talk. Xiao Yan and Yu Ran were settled in a rather quiet courtyard in the city lord's mansion. Xiao Yan and the 2 daughters lived very close to each other, but at this time Xiao Yan obviously didn't have the heart to think about it. Go inside, lie down and fall asleep. Things on Icefire Island are too troublesome, and Xiao Yan also needs a good rest. Elder Dufeng, to settle Xiao Yan and the other 3 in my city master's mansion, this is obviously against the rules. If the city owner finds out and blames him, I'm afraid. In the corridor, Du Yu and Dufeng walked side by side. Du Yu said directly, apparently just with Xiao Yan and the others. Du Yu didn't ask any further questions. I will naturally decide this matter. The city lord will tell me when he comes back. I need to find him urgently. After Dufeng finished speaking, he went away mysteriously. Strange. What happened to Elder Dufeng today? Duan Yu shook his head and said, obviously he had never seen Dufeng like this before, but there was nothing to do about it. After all, Elder Dufeng was not from the city lord's mansion. It was the people in the Thunder Valley of Forging Knives, who were sent out this time to collect information. The city lord was not there. At this time, all the affairs in the city lord's mansion were presided over by Du Yu alone, and he was also busy with other things. As for Dufeng, it seemed that there was something extremely pleasing that he wanted to discuss with the city lord. After checking the city lord's absence, he returned to his study. Dong dong dong. Elder Dufeng, the city owner has a request. After a while, the voice of a guard slowly sounded in the study. Finally back. Dufeng heard the words, smiled slowly, then put down everything in his hand and went directly to the city lord. Oh, what is this for? Do we still need to register for registration information? At this time, there were still a few figures in the study who were preparing to register information, but when the guard said this, Dufeng left them and left. Although they had complaints about this, but don't dare to say it. Sir. Dufeng had white hair, but he was in good spirits, and he came to a pavilion not long after. At this time, above the pavilion, a figure with a fairy style and a bone is slowly sitting on the stone table. Elder Dufeng, you are looking for me in such a hurry, don't know what? The city lord said slightly. The city lord looks quite young, and his body is quite well proportioned, revealing a refined scholar temperament invisibly. His handsome facial features and his slender body are quite wonderful. Lord City Lord, please take a look. Dufeng smiled, and then placed a piece of white paper directly on the stone table in the pavilion. This is 10th level fire attribute? Seeing this, the city lord couldn't help but be surprised. After so many years, finally there is a powerhouse with 10th level fire attribute Do Qi purity. The city lord couldn't help but exclaimed. No one knows the purity of 10th level Do Qi better than the city lord himself. Their valley master casts a special crystal ball, through which the concentration of Do Qi can be clearly revealed, and the concentration of Do Qi is related to strength. The valley owner of their forged sword Thunder Valley is the 10th level Thunder attribute Vindictive concentration, and the Lightning attribute is the highest in Dongzhou. In the final analysis, the valley owner has some wonders in the world that can enhance the power of the Thunder attribute. Otherwise, the concentration of fighting Qi of ordinary humans can reach the 7th level, which is already in the sky. If it is 8th and 9th, it is enough to show that there is a treasure in this human being, and if it is 10th, it will only be a wonder of heaven and earth. Fire attribute, or alchemist. As we all know, There are only two kinds of fire attribute wonders in the world: fire elves and holy flames. The city lord's tone couldn't help showing a hint of fiery. Obviously, the word holy flame is enough to drive anyone crazy. Good. My lord, according to my perception and guess, there is a very high possibility that there is a holy flame in this human named Xiao Yan. Du Feng also smiled slowly. If this guy really possesses holy flame, and with his identity as an alchemist, I'm afraid he can truly exorcise the dark disease on the owner of the valley. After all, the last time, the owner of the valley was seriously injured in order to suppress an entire foreign evil clan. Although he has recovered a lot now, he has only recovered 8 or 9 out of 10, and there are still many dark diseases left. And these years, although the Valley Master has dispatched a lot of power to find it, the powerhouses with holy flames are too rare. And the dark diseases planted by the evil races outside the territory can only be exorcised by holy flames. The city lord said with a slight smile when he heard the words. The city master is wise. Du Feng smiled. Don't look at Du Feng as the elder in the Thunder Valley of Forging Blades, but the city lord of Thunder City in front of him is far above him in terms of identity and strength, so Du Feng is just like that. It's just this strength. The 2-star Do Xian early stage is too weak. The city owner shook his head slightly, but for Xiao Yan, the 2-star Do Xian early stage and the emperor rank 3rd-grade pharmacist, these simple words can make him really pay attention. Except for Sheng Yan, I always feel that this kid seems to be hiding something. I am afraid that his level of alchemist is not only the 3rd rank of emperor. Otherwise, with the pressure of my 3-star fighting spirit, he would not be able to resolve it easily. Du Feng suddenly had a bold guess. You mean? The city lord's eyes lit up when he heard this. If Xiao Yan is really an alchemist of the immortal rank, and he is also a pharmacist with holy flame, I am afraid there is really hope for the dark disease of the valley owner. And once the Valley Master's dark disease is cured, the overall strength of Dongzhou will return to its original state. It seems that we have to send someone to contact them, but fortunately they live in our city lord's mansion, which is also convenient. The city lord whispered slightly. This time, I don't know what questions the Valley Master will come up with. I'll just wait and see. Duan Feng also laughed. Don't worry, the owner of the valley has never disappointed us. But the security in Licheng recently, you have to take a good look, and there seems to be some new action from the alien clan in Sin. After the city lord finished speaking, a violent murderous aura slowly emerged. Full Book M. Continuing from the previous episode 1271. Hoo. It really hasn't been a long time since I was so relaxed. Xiao Yan slowly got up, stretched his waist, and said with a smile. Since the registration was completed and settled down, Xiao Yan also directly rested for a day and a night, but fortunately, the rest of the day allowed Xiao Yan to return to the peak of both his mental strength and his state. There is still some time to go before the competition. It seems that I have to go to the auction to see if there is any medicine pill I need. After all, this is Licheng, so there must be some opportunities. And it happens that there is an alchemist association here, so I just went to update my pharmacist level. He. Xiao Yan tidied up a little, and suddenly opened the door gently, without disturbing the 2 daughters. Yu ran, and quietly left the city lord's mansion. Tisk. This traffic flow is really terrifying. He just left the city lord's mansion quietly through the back door, and immediately entered the busy city, with bursts of shouting. Immortal rank 1st-grade weapon, come and have a look. Immortal level fighting skills, don't miss it when you pass by. However, no matter how many shouts, Xiao Yan found out that no one was selling pills, and it was obvious that the alchemist was above Dongzhou, and the scarcity was probably far beyond his imagination. This old man, may I ask how to get to the auction house? Xiao Yan stepped forward directly, a few gold coins appeared in his hand, and then smiled politely to him. This Licheng area is too large, if there is no one to guide the direction. If so, it may be difficult to find an auction house. Hey, this little brother? You can ask the right person. Just walk straight from here to the end of the busy market in the auction house. The old man heard the words, but he took the gold coin from Xiao Yan's hand and grinned. Smile. Thank you, old man. Xiao Yan ignored it and walked directly through the crowd towards the auction house. Hey, boy, I found you. It seems that the ice sinner and I were right. It's just that this is Licheng. Our sinners haven't come yet, otherwise we will arrest you. A guy who might have holy flame must be completely obliterated no matter what. But fortunately, only the frozen envoy and I know about this matter. If he really has holy flames on his body, I'm afraid it will be rustling for me. The old man who just showed Xiao Yan the way suddenly made some rather strange voices. And then drowned in the crowd. It's not Xiao Yan's fault for this matter, after all, Xiao Yan also has moments of laxity. That old man just now had a strange aura. Xiao Yan had just left the downtown and headed for the auction house, and the Soul Eater immediately said, "Strange?" Xiao Yan shook his head slightly when he heard the words. Obviously Xiao Yan didn't pay attention just now. "That guy should also be a sinner. You have to be careful," said Soul Eater. "Yes." Xiao Yan nodded, and he could vaguely realize that the power of sin was no trivial matter. Without a word, Xiao Yan walked quietly across the busy city and came to the auction house not far away. Is this Lei Cheng's auction house? It's so elegant. Just after arriving at the end of the downtown, a splendid building slowly appeared in Xiao Yan's pupils. This splendid building, placed in the entire Thunder City, is also quite weighty. The auction house in the Thunder City has gathered countless rare treasures from almost the entire East Continent. In addition to the recent registration period of the East Continent ratio, it is inevitable that many strong people will also take out the treasures in their hands. Circulation, so I'm afraid that a lot of materials for collecting undead fire can be collected here. The Lord of Soul Eater said, "I hope there is something I need here." Xiao Yan said, and then Na Jia squirmed slightly. A black robe instantly appeared on his body, covering his appearance and some physical characteristics, doing this obviously to save some unnecessary trouble. If the auction house really has something that he needs, even if the value is expensive, Xiao Yan, the alchemist, will not let it go. Shabu shabu. After doing all this, Xiao Yan walked directly towards the main entrance of the auction house. This lord. At this time, a red carpet was slowly paving the way at the gate of the auction house, and there were guards around, but when they saw that Xiao Yan was so mysterious, they couldn't help but say, "What?" Xiao Yan's figure hidden under the black robe opened his mouth instantly, and his voice was full of unpleasant emotions. After Xiao Yan finished speaking, a terrifying soul force emerged, causing these guards to retreat slightly. He, it's all right, sir, please come in." The guards originally wanted Xiao Yan to take off the black robe. After all, this is an auction house, and they are in charge of guarding and naturally will not put some unknown guys, but the next moment, Xiao Yan, a dazzling soul power emanated from Yan's body slightly, making them dispel the idea. Such a dazzling soul power is probably a big man, so they don't dare to neglect, otherwise they offend a big man, but they can't eat it. And, hearing this, Xiao Yan snorted coldly, then stepped on the red carpet and walked towards the auction house. "Hey, you guy, your strength is good enough to be my opponent. Let's have a fight." The next moment, when Xiao Yan's figure just walked past several guards and walked inside, a young man slowly appeared in front of Xiao Yan, blocking Xiao Yan's way. This guy is so fast. When did it appear? Xiao Yan just wondered if there were any medicinal herbs he needed in the auction house, so he didn't notice this figure Xiao Yan wearing a black robe pierced through the black robes. His dark pupils looked at it, and what caught his sight was a man of the same age as himself. The man was wearing a gray robe, with unfathomable strength, staring at him with a smile on his face. Ruu's fighting spirit radiated out. "Get out of the way." Seeing this, Xiao Yan said coldly. He didn't fear this man because of that. "Hey, it's hard to find a guy with good strength. If you say let me go, isn't it shameful?" And the man still said to Xiao Yan reluctantly, "If you don't want to die, get away from me." Xiao Yan snorted coldly. He, your excellency is really arrogant." The gray-robed man said slowly. "Shabu shabu." Xiao Yan also didn't bother to pay attention to this guy. He jumped directly, the speed skyrocketed, he jumped over, and entered the auction house. "Sir." And as Xiao Yan disappeared, the guards also came back to their senses. The mysterious black-robed man just now dared to contradict this gray-robed man. This gray-robed man is one of the best geniuses of the Alchemist Association in Thunder City. If this matter spreads out, it will probably make the Alchemist Association unhappy. It's okay, the master sent me to fetch some medicinal materials. That person was an interesting guy just now. I hope I can meet him again. The man in gray robe smiled slightly, and he also disappeared into the auction house. Left pointing arrow, right pointing arrow, right pointing arrow. Continuing from the previous episode 1272. Licheng Auction House. This is the largest auction house in the entire Eastern continent. They auctioned a complete range of items, ranging from the scrolls of rare treasures to fighting skill scrolls, down to the dead corpses of strange people. However, it is precisely because there are too many auctions of this kind, which undoubtedly arouses the dissatisfaction of the residents of Licheng. They think that the people of the auction house are indecent, so they want to let the city lord's mansion manage it. However, the city lord's mansion has warned them several times, but it doesn't help. I'm afraid there are some big figures behind them, but as long as they don't touch the bottom line of Thunder Valley, obviously they will be fine. Sir, what help do you need? Xiao Yan had just stepped into the auction house, and suddenly dozens of maids with beautiful faces, with professional smiles on their cheeks, stood side by side, obviously every guest who came in will be received by one of the maids. I need some medicinal herbs. Xiao Yan did not shy away, and said directly, because he knew that although these maids only received guests, their professionalism over the years allowed them to identify the identities of the guests at a glance, and thus decide who to receive. Degree. I don't know what medicinal herbs your lord needs. The maid at the outermost hurried up when she heard this, but she could only. Xiao Yan came to buy the medicinal herbs. She couldn't help but her voice became joyful, and she couldn't help but wink. Said secretly, cough, cough. Xiao Yan didn't go on to say what herbs he needed. After all, he was hungry, so he just coughed. Sir, please come with me. The maid leaked a hint of apology after Xiao Yan's words, obviously just lost her mind by Xiao Yan's words, but the next moment, the graceful maid directly guided Xiao Yan, and then turned towards Xiao Yan. Go to the depths of the auction house. Sir, please come in. After walking for a while, the maid said sweetly after walking through several intricate alleys. Squeak. The door was gently pushed open, and a rather quiet wing appeared at that time. Sir, just tell me the herbs you need. The maid smiled, but this maid kept secretly escorting her. Obviously, in the face of a guest of Xiao Yan's level, even doing some indecent things is fine, provided that is to take out enough reward. I need heart-suppressing grass, 1,000-year-old cold iron, 10,000-year mysterious ice, deep-sea reef mud. Xiao Yan said softly. What? The maid, who was still smiling, couldn't help but look shocked when she heard the words. She has been a maid who has received guests for many years, and she naturally knows that buying medicinal materials is related to the millennium. The category that can be received, as for the things that have lasted for 10,000 years, it is even less than what he can receive. What's wrong? Xiao Yan had already seen the maid's expression, but he didn't break it, so he cast a glance and said, Sir, wait a moment, I'll ask the steward to receive you. After the maid finished speaking, she ran out in a panic. She knew that this time, it seemed to be a big fish. I am afraid there is a lot of tyrannical aura in this auction house. With my fairyland soul, I can't perceive the specific situation here. Watching the maid leave, Xiao Yan couldn't help mobilizing his soul power to try to explore an auction. Is unsuccessful. When it was time for a cup of tea, an old man walked in slowly. This lord is in charge of the next auction house. If you have any needs, you can tell me. A mature and stable old man walked towards him. The old man had been dressed in white all his life, and at first glance he knew that he was a respectable person in this auction house, and his strength, according to Xiao Yan's guess, might have reached the level of a 3-star fighting immortal. I don't need to repeat the medicinal materials I need, right? Xiao Yan smiled slightly, but with the protection of the black robe and soul power, he was not afraid that others would discover his true colors. Hey, my lord, there are very few medicinal herbs you need, even in our auction house. Mr. Luo, obviously an old fox, laughed. The implication is that we have these medicinal herbs, but you can take them out. Is it enough price? As long as there are these things, the price is easy to negotiate. After Xiao Yan finished speaking, a dazzling soul force emerged directly. What a tyrannical soul power. Could it be that your lord is an alchemist? Luo Guanxi is powerful, so naturally he is not afraid of Xiao Yan's soul power, but after sensing it, his brows are also wrinkled. That's right. Xiao Yan nodded, revealing that he was an alchemist, because he was relieved for this old guy. Sir, we happen to have 2 kinds of medicinal herbs that you need. Manager Luo struggled for a while, and said slowly. I don't know which 2 types it is. Xiao Yan heard the words, but his expression gradually became nervous. It seems that this Licheng auction house is indeed the largest in the entire East Continent. Heart-suppressing grass, deep-sea reef mud. Director Luo said with a smile. Then I'll trouble Manager Luo. When Xiao Yan heard this, he didn't show other emotions on the surface, but behind the scenes he was happy. To devour the undead fire requires undead leaves and a 5th-grade immortal-level medicinal pill, the Ice Profound pill, and now Xiao Yan already has the immortal leaf and the immortal nether sparrow, but the materials for the Bing Profound pill have not yet been collected. However, Xiao Yan made up his mind secretly that he must collect the materials before the competition in the 4 continents. After entering the Li Soul realm, he will refine the Ice Profound pill, so that he can be sure to absorb the fire of immortality. Otherwise, if there is no preparation, even this timeless fire appeared in front of Xiao Yan could only give up. After all, according to the Lord of Soul Eater, the top 20 and top 10 holy flames are not to be underestimated. Please wait a moment, my lord, and I'll go down and fetch it for you. After Mr. Luo finished speaking, Zaidu and Xiao Yan were polite, and then went down. Mr. Luo, the identity of this guy is extremely mysterious. Do you want to investigate it? Not long after Director Luo left Xiao Yan, a shadow suddenly appeared in front of him and said, "Don't need it for the time being. The soul power he just released is enough to show this guy's identity as an alchemist, and a pharmacist is an extremely rare species in our eastern continent, so don't disturb him. However, the medicinal materials this guy needs are so expensive. Could it be that they are refining medicinal herbs of the 5th-grade immortal rank? But in the entire eastern continent, there are only 2 pharmacists at the 5th-rank immortal rank, and I am quite familiar with their disciples. I have never heard that they have other disciples." Manager Luo shook his head and said, "Susu." After Steward Luo finished speaking, the shadow also slowly retreated. "Forget it. Let's take out the medicinal materials first, otherwise it would be bad for this guy to wait for a long time. Perhaps this kid was taught by a hidden powerhouse. After all, the ratio of East Continent is imminent, and there are many powerhouses in Licheng." After speaking, Director Luo went straight to the warehouse. Left pointing arrow, right pointing arrow, right pointing arrow. Continuing from the previous episode 1273. Manager Luo bid farewell to Xiao Yan, and also ordered the pretty maids in the auction house to accompany Xiao Yan to pass the boring time, while he walked directly to the warehouse of the auction house. After all, everything Xiao Yan needed was stored in the warehouse. Guanxi Luo just walked around the alley and came to a mysterious gate guarded by heavy troops, when a woman suddenly said in a mocking tone, "Hey, isn't this Director Luo? Why do you have time to come to the auction house warehouse today? Air management, please don't mind your own business, you should still do your essential work." Seeing this, Manager Luo couldn't help roaring. He never thought that this enemy would look down and see him. In the auction house, there are 3 major stewards in total. He ranks last in terms of strength and seniority. Although this tycoon is a woman, he is ranked second because of his huge background. In terms of strength, although he is the same as himself, but its power is far beyond itself, even more important. There are some unresolvable grievances between Guanxi Luo and Guanxi. The origin of this kind of grievance is clearly formed by the confrontation between the 2 families at the beginning. Both of them are geniuses in some high-ranking families in Licheng. Competitors, who are now working together, are naturally fighting openly and secretly, which cannot be avoided. Luo Guanxi, Feng Guanxi, you 2 adults, please stop arguing, now is an eventful time. I am afraid that the owner and the big steward have a lot of things to do, and many affairs in this auction house still need the 2 adults to work together. The guard in charge of guarding the warehouse saw this and couldn't help but persuade. There is nothing they can do either. With the advent of the ratio between Licheng and East China, the auction house owner and the chief steward have all gone to the Thunder Valley to discuss some things, so now this auction house is just the steward Luo in front of him. He Feng is in control of things, but there are also many strong people who are secretly responsible for protecting the safety of the auction house. Mr. Luo, you are not entertaining guests in the auction house, why are you here? I clearly remember that the chief steward said that the auction house's warehouse is not under your control. Did Steward Luo forget it? Mr. Feng's beautiful eyes turned slightly, and he smiled at Mr. Luo, his voice full of there was an aggressive aura. Feng Guanxi, although the auction house warehouse is indeed not under my jurisdiction, but your jurisdiction, but I think that if the time of an immortal rank alchemist is delayed, I am afraid Feng Guanxi should know better than me. It's a great relationship. Luo Guanxi is not a vegetarian, so he directly countered. Immortal level pharmacist? Feng Guanxi heard the words, and his breath was slightly condensed. Obviously, the word, immortal level, was enough to make her quite fearful. After all, the immortal level pharmacist represented more than just one person. It's a whole force. You don't have to think about it to know that it will undoubtedly be protected by the tyrannical sect if it can reach the level of the immortal level pharmacist. Luo Guanxi, do you know the punishment for cheating? Feng Guanxi shook his head slightly, obviously based on her information. She had never heard of an immortal level pharmacist visiting the auction house in the past few days, otherwise it would just be an immortal. The rank of alchemist is enough for them to treat them seriously. Believe it or not, the Wind Steward decides for himself. After Luo Steward finished speaking, he turned around and prepared to leave. After all, after so much delay, he couldn't get the medicinal materials that the pharmacist needed, so he could only go back to appease him, and by the way can pull Feng Guanxi into the water, and once Feng Guanxi offends an immortal level pharmacist, then the position of the second steward of the auction house is his own. Open the door and fetch him the medicinal materials he needs. Seeing that Guanxi Luo was so quiet, Guanxi Feng seemed to realize that things were not easy, so he couldn't help saying to the guard. What medicinal herbs do your guests need? The air steward asked. No. Director Luo directly handed over the white paper that recorded the medicinal materials written by Xiao Yan. How could it be possible? And just seeing the large characters on the white paper at a glance, 1,000 years is enough to show that this guy is very likely to be a very high-level alchemist. Btth. As soon as the voice fell, a strange energy scroll suddenly appeared in Feng Guanxi's hand, and then walked towards the bronze warehouse door in front of him. Crash! As soon as it hit it, a deafening voice sounded. When Director Luo saw this, he also stopped, waiting for the medicinal materials to arrive. Just as the turmoil had just occurred, Feng Guanxi turned into a stream of light and poured into it, and then the bronze warehouse door returned to silence. This is what you need. After a while, the figure of Feng Guanxi appeared, but at this time, a beautiful round tray appeared slowly in her hand. In the tray, there were 2 types that Xiao Yan needed. Thing. It won't be far away. Manager Luo took the round tray and went straight to Xiao Yan's house without stopping. He wasted too much time here, and he couldn't take care of the grievances between manager and Feng. Yan has any bad thoughts about their auction house, which is probably a huge loss for their auction house. After all, the medicinal pills refined by high-level pharmacists are priceless. Sir, just at the entrance of the auction house, there was a man covered in black robes, and the guards tried to suppress him by force to prove his identity, but at that time, an extremely tyrannical soul force appeared on the man in black robes and shook the guards back, according to the auction. According to the analysis of the strong in the line, the level of soul strength has reached the fairyland. Feng Guanxi left the warehouse slightly, and suddenly a slender woman dressed in black said in front of him. Immortal level pharmacist. If it is the guy in Licheng, I am afraid I already know, but after the registration information of Dongzhou ratio, even if the number of applicants exceeds 10,000, there are only 100 pharmacists. There are less than 10 people, even immortal pharmacists. It seems that this guy who came to the auction house to buy medicinal herbs has a good background. Feng Guanxi said. Sir, how do you say this? The woman in black asked in confusion. The medicinal materials that guy wrote down seem to be related to flames. And if I expected it to be good, the heart-suppressing grass and the 10,000-year level medicinal materials both have extremely tyrannical effects of suppressing the power of flames. Feng Guanxi said slightly, could it be that this guy bought these things for some wonders of the world? For example, fire spirit, or holy flame? The black-clothed maid's voice was like the sound of thunder, slowly shaking the mind of the wind manager. Feng Guanxi and Luo Guanxi are both at the 3-star Do Xian perfection level, and they can be regarded as the top-ranked powerhouses in the entire D city, but even they are still pupils when they hear Sheng Yan and fire spirit. Become hot, because they know better than anyone that fighting immortal level strength, if they obtain these things, they will undoubtedly be more powerful. Go down, do your job well, and forget about this immortal level pharmacist. Feng Guanxi shook his head slightly, then disappeared into the alley. Left pointing arrow, right pointing arrow, right pointing arrow. Continuing from the previous episode 1274. Why is it so slow? Xiao Yan sat quietly in the house, even drinking 3 cups of tea. It's been over an hour, and there is still no movement at all. Could it be that Director Luo deceived him? But it shouldn't be. No matter what, this manager Luo is also a prominent figure in the auction house. If he deceives himself, he will undoubtedly be ridiculed by many strong people in Licheng. Sir, don't be impatient. At this time, Xiao Yan sat quietly on the wooden table. The teacup in his hand couldn't help but exert a little force, and was noticed by the maid, and then the exquisite and beautiful maid slowly laughed. You, the #1 auction house in Licheng, are really disappointing. Xiao Yan snorted coldly. Obviously, it was impossible to waste so much time just by going to the warehouse to get the medicinal materials. Now that so much time is wasted, Xiao Yan also became impatient. A distinguished guest like your lord will definitely take more time. After all, lord, the things you need are too precious. In order to keep the medicinal materials intact, you need to take them out carefully. The maid and Xiao Yan also chatted slowly. Trying to diffuse Xiao Yan's impatience, even when he was talking constantly, his delicate body was slightly close to Xiao Yan. I don't know if it was intentional or not. Cough cough. Seeing this, Xiao Yan released his soul power slightly, and pushed the maid's figure a little distance away. When the maid saw this, she shook her head with a pity. After all, their fighting spirit is too weak. If they can follow a strong man, even if they are cattle and horses, it is better than being a maid who receives guests in an auction house. Tian Bukai's innocence was ruined by some playful children. Even the auction house would not offend some tyrannical forces for their sake. Hey, I've kept you waiting for a long time. After a while, Director Luo hurriedly returned to the wooden house. Haha, Director Luo really made me wait. Xiao Yan got up straight away, and with the help of the black robe's cover, he said slightly dissatisfied. Okay, you can go down. Manager Luo glanced at the maid, and then said. The maid quietly retreated after hearing the words. Hey, my lord, it was our auction house's mistake this time, and it wasted such precious time as your lord. So these 2 medicinal materials are not bartered, they can be offset directly with 100 million gold coins, and they are also counted as us. A little apology from the auction house to the adults. Manager Luo smiled. Not barter? With gold coins? Tisk tisk. This guy is really willing. Xiao Yan heard the words. His face hidden under the black robe couldn't help but twitch. 100 million gold coins, this is naturally not difficult for Xiao Yan, but according to Xiao Yan's guess, if I want to buy these 2 kinds of medicinal materials directly, I am afraid it will cost me a lot of treasure. After all, these 2 kinds of medicinal materials are too precious. Relying on gold coins is no longer enough to measure its value, it can only be bartered, and now this guy actually said that it can be offset with gold coins. Even in terms of gold coins, the value of the 2 medicinal materials is not intended to exceed 200 million or even more. This manager Luo only charged Xiao Yan 100 million gold coins, obviously he wanted to befriend Xiao Yan. Yes, Xiao Yan didn't have too many emotional fluctuations. After all, manager Luo's little abacus was clearly noticed by Xiao Yan, and he directly and slowly agreed. Sir, these are the 2 medicinal materials you need. Heart-suppressing grass and deep-sea reef mud. The next moment, Director Luo turned the ring gently in his hand, and suddenly a beautiful porcelain tray appeared in the wooden house. This is. With the appearance of this thing, the temperature in the entire wooden house slowly dropped a lot, and Xiao Yan couldn't help being shocked. Heart-suppression grass and deep-sea reef mud, these 2 kinds of medicinal materials can be said to be extremely rare existences. Heart suppression grass is necessary for refining and swallowing the immortal fire elixir. It is about the size of the palm of your hand. It was a lively plant, but even with the isolation and protection of the tray, Xiao Yan could vaguely feel that this medicinal herb had an extremely tyrannical restraint on the power of flame. As for the deep-sea reef mud, it is a pool of cyan liquid, and Xiao Yan is not very clear about its specific use. But in order to prevent others from discovering the purpose of buying the medicinal materials, he can only buy it together. After all, this is Licheng. See you, there are too many well-informed and hungry guys. Sir, are the medicinal materials right? Seeing Xiao Yan using his soul power to check, Director Luo didn't stop him. After all, This is an auction house. Even if Xiao Yan is an immortal pharmacist, if he wants to be tough, he is probably the same. It will be impossible to escape, and it will be said after a while. Well, really, Xiao Yan nodded lightly. These medicinal materials are quite precious, and in order to preserve their medicinal power, an extremely cold environment is required. After speaking, Director Luo directly handed the tray in his hand to Xiao Yan. CC. As soon as the tray was started, a bone-piercing cold suddenly spread out. Xiao Yan knew that this tray was definitely not a simple thing, but looking at the lineup, Manager Luo was obviously going to give it to him to enhance the relationship. Xiao Yan also smiled slowly. Well, the things are already in hand. Let's go and find out about other things first. I have other things to do. Xiao Yan gently put the 2 medicinal materials into the collection ring, and suddenly said, "Sir, please come with me." The next moment Director Luo led the way and took Xiao Yan to go through the capital procedures. However, I have to say that the position of Director Luo in the auction house is far beyond Xiao Yan's imagination. Even if there are many people at the front desk of the auction house, Director Luo has just brought Xiao Yan, and the others have retreated one after another. A green channel. 100 million gold coins is not an astronomical number for Xiao Yan, but the gold coins on Xiao Yan's body are really poor, so he had to take out some medicinal pills as collateral, and then offset the 100 million gold coins, but right in addition, the medicinal pills on Xiao Yan's body are also pitiful. This auction house is really a place of huge profits. After just stepping out of the auction house, Xiao Yan couldn't help but turn his head and said, "Just going to the front desk, the traffic is huge and scary." Hey, although the auction house makes huge profits, how can you make huge profits from your alchemists? The Lord of Soul Eater also laughed. Let's go. Next, go to the Alchemist Association to confirm your refining skills. With the Medal of Alchemist of the Immortal rank, you will be able to get a lot of help no matter where you go in the future. However, if you can reach the level of Immortal Pharmacist, this will undoubtedly become the target of everyone's looting. And you don't seem to have disclosed or used your identity as an alchemist before. This time, the ratio of Dongzhou must be used well. The Lord of Souls laughed. Yeah. After speaking, Xiao Yan nodded lightly and walked towards the Alchemist Association. Since breaking through the soul of the Immortal rank, Xiao Yan vaguely felt that his alchemist skills had barely reached the level of the 4th rank of Immortal rank, but he did not know the truth.